Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show, episode 112. It is Thursday. That means it's time for another episode of the Late Night Vision Show. I am Hans. I got Jason, the owner of Outdoor Legacy, here with me tonight. As always, we've got some interesting things that we're going to be talking about. We've got a sneak peek of a new scope coming out, and we've got a lot of suppressor talk this week. Jason, how you doing, bud?
Man, I'm doing great. How are you?
Good deal. Last week was Father's Day. I hope everybody had a good weekend. Hope all the dads got to relax and got that breakfast brought to them in bed. I know my family and we went to Broken Bow, Oklahoma, and rented a nice cabin for the weekend and had a good time. And I know that you got to do some things and have some time with your family as well.
Yep, absolutely. It was a good weekend, and it was a good time. And so, we're just struggling through the hot and the dry early summer. But hey, I want to say one more thing. A lot of times when we go to record the show, we joke about that there's hogs on camera or there's hogs or it always seems to happen when we're recording the podcast. And I had somebody that emailed and said, those hogs have got y'all patterned and they know that Thursday nights are the time to come out. Well, it's kind of funny because I've been telling Hans, I've got this group of hogs that's been just really getting out in my pasture and tearing some stuff up. The ground's so hard they can't tear much up, but they've been trying to, and they've been coming out really late at night, or they come out at times when I just can't go down there and shoot them or drag them off. And so it's been a cat and mouse game. And I've been telling him, like, man, I am trying. I'm staying up late and I never see them. And anyway, I got ready to come up here and I looked down there and those hogs were down there. And I was like, I just flipped the thermal off. They were about 400 yards down there in my pasture. I just flipped it off and just came on up here, and here I am recording the podcast. So it's the only time they ever come out at a decent hour is Thursday nights.
If they were in your garden, then that means that you would be postponing this show for a later time tonight. But I'm glad you're with us.
Yeah. And if my ground wasn't as hard as concrete, then I probably would be out there. But no, we're good. So
thank y'all. Thank you everybody for joining us again. Episode 112. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. If you're listening on iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify, we really appreciate it. If you get a chance, please give us a good ranking or rating on all of those platforms. It'd really help us out a lot. But right now, Jason, in my hands, I have got the Pulsar Thermion XQ38. And why do I have this thing in my hands right now after all this time of talking about it?
That is a good question. Why is it not on a rifle, and why are you not hunting with it?
I just opened it. It's just right out of the box.
Yeah. So, I don't know if we've mentioned it, but those scopes did start shipping. We had a very, very small amount of those come into the U.S., a very small double-digit number, and we only got a couple of them. I think there were several dealers that got, a couple apiece, and so Hans and I are sharing that one, and we went ahead and filled the first order. We had somebody who placed their order with us while Hans and I were in the Las Vegas airport waiting for our plane to come back to Texas. And the guy placed his order there in January at SHOT Show. So we went ahead and shipped his, and then we're having to share one of these. So we're having to ship it back and forth between us until we can get some more. So if you're on that list, sit tight. It's going to be a while. But the good news is Hans and I are getting to use this optic, use it in the field, test it. And we are going to be doing a review on it very soon. What, maybe next week? Is that right?
Yeah, next Thursday, episode 113. And I'm going to tell you, that guy, kudos to him, man. He put in the long game weight right there.
He did. He was first on the list. And absolutely. So he's a cool guy. And so anyway, he's got his. And I talked to him today, and he's been using it and seems super happy with it. So, with that said, I can't wait to do the review on it. I know it's very exciting. A lot of people have been waiting to hear about it. There is no question in my mind that is the #1 selling thermal rifle scope on the market for 2020, and it's not even actually selling yet. But there's that many pre-orders There's that many guys waiting on it. Every single XQ38 that is shipped into the United States this year will sell within a matter of days, and that is my prediction. The only way it won't is if the apocalypse happens, and if it does, I think then they'll sell because people will be needing them for the zombie apocalypse then. So
Yeah.
they're gonna sell. It's a super scope, and it's the price range that a lot of people are looking for, the magnification that a lot of guys are looking for. So anyway,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to do the review right now, but it's exciting.
Yep.
So-
And we also, with that being said, with that XQ38, I know that there's another scope that has been out for a long time, but a lot of people have been waiting on, including a buddy of mine who's been patiently waiting for the Sightmark Wraiths, which we finally have got back into stock.
Yeah, the Wraith HD, obviously they have been out now for over a year, but during the whole coronavirus shutdown, there were no shipments coming in for 2 or 3 months. And so a lot of dealers, including ourselves, sold out and were out for a good while. But there's been a couple good shipments come in. So they are back in stock. We have got a pile of them sitting on the shelf at Outdoor Legacy. We had a lot of guys waiting. We've been shipping those things out all last week and this week, and so we've got some left. So if you're interested in the Wraith HDs, we've got them, and we're hoping to be able to keep decent inventory on those for the rest of the summer unless something, goofy happens. Want to also mention, I'm just kind of go through some scopes here and some things we've got. One thing that I don't know if we've really talked about again or not, but it's the Sightmark Signal 320 RT. And way back in, I think it was 2018, we did a review of what our choice for the best handheld night vision thermal device for $1,000 or less was. And at the time, we chose the Sightmark Signal 320 RT. And for a digital night vision optic, that is still our choice. There's not a lot of really good options for digital night vision handheld out there, and the Signal is one of them. When we did that review, that optic was $399. Sightmark is actually in the process of discontinuing production on those units, and we've worked a deal with them to help them close those out. There's only a handful left. We've been selling them like this for most of this year, 2020. But we've got a few left, and they're down to $269. That is a steal. Nobody's making money, us nor Sightmark, but we're helping them get rid of them. If you're looking for a digital night vision monocular, the Sightmark Signal is an excellent choice for $269. Won't break the bank. Easily see over 200 yards out of it. Go back and find. I wish I knew that episode number of when we did that. It was the best handheld optic under $1,000. I don't remember that episode number. I'll see if I can find it and mention it in a minute. But anyway, we've got those. Last week we did the AGM ASP TM160, the micro unit, $499 thermal. We did a full review on that. We've still got a bunch of those in stock, so they're available. Another unit that I got asked a good bit about because that people are waiting on this TM160 review is the AGM ASP TM384 micro unit. And that is about a $1,300 unit, I believe. We have those in stock as well, but we will be doing a review in the coming weeks on that unit as well. And last but not least, speaking of AGM, their thermal rifle scopes, the Secutors, that is their flagship line. That was what was announced at SHOT Show. Hans and I had a little bit of a interview there with them and some video. And those units, the TS25, that's going to be $2,600, and the TS50 is going to be about $3,300. Those units are inbound. We should have them by the time this show airs. So we're going to be checking those out. We will be giving you the feedback on those. We want to do some testing on them. We have used them. They're prototypes. These are new scopes. They've been doing some software updates and some things to them. So we're really excited to see the final product there.
Yeah, so everybody that's been waiting and asking about AGM scope reviews and testing, hold tight. We will be putting those things through the ringer. We're going to be testing them, using them, shooting with them, killing hogs and coyotes with them, and we will have all the feedback right here on the Late Night Vision Show, and we will definitely share that with you.
By the way, if you're, I just looked here while you were talking, episode 27, way back,
Nice.
November 2018, that is the best handheld night vision under $1,000. Episode 27. You can find that on YouTube or on any of the podcast apps if you're interested in that site mark signal, know a little bit more about that unit. There's also a very good blog review of that at Colonel Cupp's website, theolddeerhunters.com. That is actually how Colonel Cupp and I became acquainted. He bought that unit from us and did that review and sent it over and said, hey, look what I did, and thought y'all'd be interested, and I was blown away. So that's how we actually got together.
Yep.
So go check that out. But anyway, I just wanted to give you kind of a quick update before we jumped into all things suppressor talk.
Absolutely. All things suppressors. You got it exactly right. So we're going to be touching on something that we don't spend a lot of time here on the show about, and that is suppressors. Really, Jason, it's not for any particular reason.
I don't know how we made it 112 episodes without talking about suppressors.
If you go way back into our catalog of episodes, you're going to have to go all the way back to episode 20, where we really get into talk about suppressors. And it's not really in a lot of details on specific brands or types, but it's really on how to get a suppressor. And so we're going to be talking about our suppressors, the ones that we use, the ones that we like, the reasons why, really the reasons why we chose them. We're going to be talking about going through the process very quickly again. But just, there's a lot, man, doing research for the show. You have your major brands of suppressors, but there are a lot of different suppressor companies out there right now that are doing this kind of work. And it seems like it's growing every day with the popularity of people shooting suppress. But, I think we jump right into it, and let's kind of start from the beginning. And if you want more information on the process in which to get a suppressor, I'd invite you to look back to episode 20. That is our interview with attorney Jim Willey, and he talked about setting up a gun trust. And I know that's Jason. There's a couple different routes that you can take. Whether what they call the one-shot suppressor, where you go in and you're just basically buying it as an individual, and then you have the gun trust. And there's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo in there that I'm not going to try to explain or get into, but I'd definitely encourage y'all to go check out episode 20 on how to set up a gun trust, because that makes the most sense to a lot of people getting that done.
Yeah, I agree. I personally would say don't buy one, without some pretty weird circumstances, without getting a gun trust. And if you're going to get a gun trust, this is my personal opinion, everybody's got their own, go to an attorney that creates gun trust. I'm not saying that your local attorney in, downtown Timbuktu can't do it. I'm sure that he can probably draw up a good one, but there's a lot of benefits going through someone who's done thousands of these gun trusts. And one of the benefits of that is that they know how to create these things. There's little small things that you haven't thought about, and that maybe, your attorney that you're going to use hasn't thought about, that they can make this very simple. And one of those I want to just mention briefly is adding people and taking people off your trust.
Right.
So let's say that my brother-in-law wants to borrow one of my suppressors to go hunting tomorrow night. Well, by federal law, he cannot do that. But with a gun trust, I can add him to my trust, and then he can do it. All right. So most every trust has some way to add people and take them off. But one nice thing is just an example of like Jim's trust. It takes nothing more than a single piece of paper that he provides. We go run down in front of a local notary, anybody that you can drag up that's a notary, and they just watch me and him sign a piece of paper. A simple sign your name here, notary signs off on it, boom. I add that to my trust. This is not something that has to be filed. This is not something that anybody has to know. I put it in my gun safe with that piece of paper in there, hand him my my suppressor, and he is fully legal to now have that thing.
Yep.
And guess what? He brings it back to me after his hunt, and I get to thinking, you know what? I really don't want my brother-in-law on this trust anymore. Well, I don't have to do anything but take that piece of paper and throw it in the trash can. I don't have to tell him. I don't have to do anything. Now, every trust is different. Every process is different. The point I'm making is that's super easy. I've got a buddy that he went through kind of one of these local attorneys that had done, a few of these. Well, he wanted to, it was a deal. We had a big hunt. He had a couple suppressors. I was going to borrow them. Oh my goodness. It was a nightmare. We were going to have to go back to the attorney to get him to draw this up, sign this, go to the courthouse. I mean, it was a joke. I mean, we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It was just not feasible to add me to his trust, to let me borrow a suppressor for 4 hours. So anyway, there's little things like that I would say, get a good one and go ahead.
Yeah, get a good, and check out if you haven't, if you're looking, and Jim Willie can do this over the phone. You talk to him for 20 minutes. He gets it all drawn up, emails it over to you. You don't have to go anywhere in person. It's really the best process for getting this done. Now, and should probably let you know if you don't have a suppressor, if you haven't gone through the process, it does seem that if you are buying a suppressor and you're doing it around a trust, it does seem like those take longer to come back from the ATF. I know, had a buddy that just did one, bought it as an individual, got it back in 4 months. Most of them that if you're running it with a trust, it could take anywhere. Well, mine took 12 months to get back under a trust. So it does take a little bit longer. Yeah,
I'll mention wait times. I was going to mention that later, but we can go ahead and talk about it now. Everybody knows it takes a long time, and it does. And this is my joke about it. Whenever you're getting ready to buy one, you're always going to hear, wait times are coming down. They're getting quicker right now. Well, I hear that every time I get ready to buy one. And then whatever happens, I don't get a benefit of these quicker wait times. So my first one took 12 months. My second one took 11 months. And my third one took 13 and a half months. And so,
during my wait, there was a 30-day government shutdown during my wait when they had the whole, whatever was going on, but they shut it down for 30 days. So, if you're buying it under a trust, I would just notch out a year out of your life.
Yeah, it's going to be a year.
Just forget about it. Buy it and forget about it. And
you do. And don't put it off, know. And I want to say one last thing about the trust deal before we get off of that. I know there are some other trusts that you can go out there and buy for like $30. And I'm sure they'll do you just fine. But I've heard some guys that have gotten those that have called me. We've just been talking about scopes and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they've run into some real problems because some of those trusts are only for one NFA item, one suppressor. So they go, well, that's all I want is one. It's perfect. Well, they get it. And then come to find out, in 6 months, a year, they want another one. And I've got to buy the trust again. Well, now I've got two different suppressors and and it turns into a mess. Yeah. Get a good trust. Come on, guys. I mean, you're gonna wait a year on this. You're gonna spend a lot of money doing it. Don't go out here and get a $30 trust. Get something that's good. It's worth the money. And I got a buddy that's over in Austin. He's an attorney, and this guy owns more suppressors than anybody I know, and he uses Jim Willie for all of his stuff. I mean, he's an attorney, and he doesn't even do it himself. Yeah. He goes to Jim, and he's got all his trust. He recommends everybody go there. So, absolutely, I agree with all that. The other thing that I'm going to say about buying one, and this is something that everybody told me, and I thought it was the most ridiculous thing that I'd ever heard, and I didn't take the advice, and I wished that I had. And that is, go ahead and buy two the first time. Don't just buy one, buy two. And I know it's a lot of money. You may not have the budget for that, but I will tell you, if there is any possible way that you can put that in your budget, go ahead and get two. I said I would never need two suppressors. I can only shoot one gun at one time. And that's true. But what I found was there was two major things that I had never thought of. One, I'm lazy and I got tired of switching that suppressor back from this rifle back to that one.
Right.
And oh, there's hogs, and I got the scope on this rifle, and I want to use that one, and I'm trying to thread it, and I got tired of that. But the bigger issue is you're going to go hunting, and you're going to hunt with some other guys sometime that somebody's not going to have a suppressor. And if I mean, Hans and I ran into this at one point. He was still waiting on his. We go hunting together. I might as well take my suppressor and throw it in the lake because it does no good. I mean, we both now have to wear hearing protection.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It does. One suppressor is just makes no sense whatsoever when there's two or more people hunting.
Oh, I mean,
so yeah.
back in the day when I was waiting on a suppressor, I was the only guy in the group that didn't have a suppressor. You don't want to be that guy. The one
you're
that's
that
bringing
guy.
the group down. But
Yeah, you were that guy with me, but
I think your advice is correct. Go ahead and buy two. You always have. Seems like you're waiting on a suppressor for the last 3 years.
It's
like
been over 3 years. Yeah, I've been constantly waiting them. And so again, folks, I know it's a lot of money. You may not be able to afford to do that. I get it. But if you can swing it, I would say go ahead and do it. You're going to want another one. I know very, very few people who hunt much, who own a suppressor, who use it, who own just one. I mean, you're gonna end up and want to get another one at some point. One thing that Hans and I also want to jump into, and we're not gonna just spend all night on it, but I did want to just talk about some basic things that I know that guys ask me. We do not sell suppressors, but people ask, hey, what do you use? And I'm thinking about getting one, and they ask some of these questions. And there's just a few things that I kind of want to go over. And I know one of those is what should I look for when I go and buy one? And I think
or even where to buy one, something like that.
Yeah, where to buy
what to look for. There's a lot that goes into. I mean, you can really go down a bunch of different rabbit trails when you're trying to figure out this. But there's the good thing is there's a lot of people on social media that you can talk to and ask, because that's kind of what helped us out a lot when we were deciding to do this. But when it comes to where to buy one and what to look for, I'll tell you, you've got your favorite place that you go to. I'll let you talk about that.
Sure.
There's a lot of shops around town, whatever, if you're in a big town or if you live in a small town and you can get to a big town. I love these silencer shop kiosks. Have you seen those?
Yeah. I've never used one, but I've seen them. Yeah.
Man, it is, and this is not a plug for them at all, but man, it is so easy to get on there and do all of your paperwork. They do your fingerprints there, everything on that kiosk. And man, they have made that so simple. I ended up getting mine at a shop, drove all the way to Dallas, ended up getting it done. But they've got here in the town close to me, Tyler, they've got one at a gun shop there. You do yours over the phone at a big. Isn't it the largest?
I think they're the largest suppressor shop in at least Texas, which probably means the U.S. And I'll plug them. I mean, they're not paying us for this, but it's Capital Armory in Austin, Texas. Capital like the capital of Texas, and they're great guys there. This is what they do: is they sell suppressors and NFA firearms, and they are great. I know that I've got several buddies that had done stuff with them. Jim Willie uses them as well, and so I had a lot of people recommend them to me, and I know why. They're very, very good. They will walk you through, answer your questions. This is basically what we do for thermal scopes. They do for suppressors. Hey, I don't know what I need. What should I get? What about this one? What about that? These guys, they eat and breathe suppressors like we do thermal and night vision scopes. And so they know all about them. Anyway, I'll just quickly say their process for me has been great because we are in the same state and it's very easy. They do something that a lot of other suppressor dealers won't or can't do. I don't know. They just won't. They will actually allow you to have that suppressor shipped to your door. So I send them my trust, all my stuff. They keep it all on file. Everything is super easy over email. And then when it's done, I fill out a piece of paper, mail it back to them. It's a form. It's a long story, just how this thing works. But anyway, it takes about an extra week and a half, 2 weeks, and they ship that thing UPS to my door.
Right.
You can do 100% of the process sitting in your underwear eating Cheetos. I mean, it is a very nice process. And so then what I like about it is dealing with them on follow-up stuff is I just go online, order the suppressor that I want. All my stuff is in their system. Boom, send you an email, sign right here. Boom, we're done. I mean, it's just super easy. So they've been great to deal with. So I think my advice is this: either use one of those kiosks or use a good, reputable, high volume dealer for suppressors. And listen, I am all about small mom and pop local gun shops. No different than we're a mom and pop, night vision thermal dealer. I'm about supporting the full-time people in the hunting industry. But the one thing I would say is no different than a thermal dealer. You need to find somebody that not only knows their stuff, that they do enough of it that they know how to do it. I know some guys who've gone to some small gun shops who I think those guys were good guys. They meant well, but they totally screwed up the paperwork. And when I say screwed it up, I know multiple instances of guys that have waited 2 years, never gotten their suppressor, found out that, you got to pay for the suppressor up front. So never gotten it, found out the paperwork was submitted wrong. One guy waited 18 months to find out that they never submitted it. They found it along with his check in some file folder. And
my gosh.
Oh yeah. So use a good, and again, this is not a knock on just a small dealer. If they do it, they know what they're doing, they do it a lot, great. You just want to make sure that you're getting in with somebody that knows. Once it's all submitted, it's out of their hands, it's in the federal government's hands, and the wait begins. But you just want to make sure that it's gotten done correctly. I'm going to tell you one more thing, and I'll kind of stop here on the where to buy. But another issue that I never thought of, and I bet you in the last 2 years, I've had 5 guys who've called and told me this. One of the guys was a local guy, and he didn't do this at any local shop here. He did it somewhere else. They've bought it, got the paperwork submitted, and the gun shop went out of business. Now, they've got their suppressor. All of that paperwork is with that FFL, and that FFL's out of business. I'm talking about, I've heard some nightmare stories. One guy, between him and his buddy, had 4 cans bought, and the shop went out of business. They couldn't get a hold of them. They had to get a hold of the ATF, and it prolonged the whole thing by another 8 or 10 months. So you don't want the folks to go out of business in the middle of your year wait. So anyway, that's the last I'll say about where to buy. So buy a good reputable dealer, and I'm sure you'll be fine. So anyway,
that is, talking about nightmare. Gosh, I didn't even think about that.
Me neither. Never thought about it.
You're placing your trust in a company that you're going to have a 12-month relationship with. So you definitely want to make sure that you're dealing with a good, reputable one. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. The next thing we want to talk about is what to look for when you're deciding on a suppressor. And I'll let you talk a little bit about what you look for and I'll kind of talk about what I look for and what I got, and we'll kind of go from there.
I think that, there's a lot of things. Everybody wants to know how quiet they are. And here's the problem. I'm going to shoot y'all straight. You can go look at all these suppressors, and they all have like a decibel rating.
Yeah.
And I can read that, and I can read 5 more, and I have no clue what that means. It's kind of like telling me that a jet's running Mach 3, because I don't really know what that means. I guess it's good, but I don't know. And so the decibel ratings, and the other thing is I look at it and I'm like, well, this one is, 3 decibels louder. Is that a lot? I don't know. I mean, so it's one of those things where I don't know that much about it. And then you go to YouTube and you're like, well, I'm just going to go watch about them here, which is, great. It's where we're at. It's a good place to learn. The problem is there's some guy with a video camera and he's shooting and it sounds really quiet to me or it sounds really loud. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not a good way to judge. And my biggest thing was I talked to a lot of people that owned a lot of suppressors, and one of these guys owned over 10 suppressors. And he said, Jason, I'm just going to shoot you straight. He said, if you get a good quality name brand suppressor, he said, there's really not a minute's difference in any of them. He goes, are some quieter than others? Yes. Do they have a little different tone than others? Yes. He said, but for you to blindfold me and you to randomly screw one of those on my rifle and shoot it and me be able to tell you which one. He goes, I could guess a couple of them maybe by the tone, especially if we were shooting subsonics. He goes, but I'd have to just, throw a dart.
Oh, yeah.
And so it made me feel better. It made me, he was like, just choose a good quality suppressor and you're not going to go wrong. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah, a reputable brand. You're right. I've hunted with people with a wide variety of different suppressors, and when we all shoot, we're like, yeah, those are pretty quiet. But we could never tell the difference in what brand. But, when you talk about suppressor and you say, oh, I'm getting a suppressor, one of the big questions that comes up a lot is, did you get a QD or did you get a direct thread? And that's one thing that comes up quite a bit. So I'll just talk about a little bit what I got. I'm going to hold it up right now. I went with, this was 2 years ago now when I purchased this. This is this Dead Air Sandman TI. It's the 30 caliber can. I shoot most of the rifles I use are 30 calibers. They also make an adapter for it if you want to use it on a 223 or 556, if on a half-inch threaded barrel. I do have the adapter. I don't use a lot that caliber quite that much, but the 30 caliber can. Did you know that Dead Air silencers, they sell more suppressors in Texas than in any other state? I just found that out today. It's kind of interesting to learn, but yeah, and that's all, including all the states, but Texas is their biggest market. But I went with the direct thread. Now the QD, a lot of different suppressor companies have QD, the quick release suppressors, and that's basically you're purchasing a flash suppressor or a muzzle brake for each one of your rifles. It locks on there. You don't have to take the flash suppressor off. This one, you take that flash suppressor off, and I'll show it right now, and then it just screws right onto the threaded part of your barrel. I mean, there's no attachment that you have. I found that to be pretty convenient, but also, I've got a buddy that's got the QD, and it's pretty nice. He ended up going with the Q, the Thunder Chicken, and I'm going to tell you what, I really like that one too. His suppressor sounds really good, but he bought what's called cherry bombs. Those are the QD lock-in that goes onto the end of your barrel, the QD attachment. And man, it's quick and easy. Just pop it off, pop it on another rifle. But I think each attachment that you put on a rifle costs about $75. So there's that added cost with that. But I know.
Yeah, that was one of the things for me. I went with direct thread personally, and that was something that I got really hung up on. And I talked to a lot of guys that have been shooting cans for a long time, and I didn't want to screw up here. And let me just interject this one note. This is the thing about buying a suppressor. It's essentially a lifetime purchase. Yes, you can sell it, but that person, you have to use an FFL, and that person has to go through the whole year wait and all this again. So it's just, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not common. So you're buying this thing, and it's basically going on to your kids or your grandkids. Okay, so it's a lifetime purchase. So it is important. Well, I didn't know whether to buy the QD or the direct thread, and I was really afraid that I was going to make the wrong decision. And a couple of the guys that I talked to had been using cans, since way back, and they were like, it doesn't matter. It's whatever you want. And I'm like, you're sure I'm not? They're like, some people only like QD, some only like direct thread. I've got both. Doesn't matter. Get what you want. And so, and to be honest, folks, that's how Hans and I are in a lot of things. We're not like all, if you don't do it our way, it's the wrong way. And it's nice to talk to other people that way, because it gives me the sense of, okay, these guys have done it all, and they know they haven't done it just one way. They've done it all, and they're giving me this freedom and tell me I'm not going to screw up. Or if they tell me that I am going to screw up, then I try to listen to them. But I ended up when I was looking at doing it, these QD mounts, several years ago were more than $75. I mean, I think some of the ones I were looking at were $100 and something a piece, and I started thinking about, gosh, I'm going to go to this rifle, and I'd like to go to that rifle. And what if I get another one? And I started thinking, man, I'm going to spend as much money buying these QD attachments as I am on buying the suppressor. I could buy another suppressor. So for me at the time, my first suppressor, I'll just go ahead and mention it. I went with the same thing with the Dead Air Sandman TI, which I really, really like. And then when it came time for my second suppressor, I decided, I've already got one direct thread. I'm used to that. Might as well go with the second. And so I went with the Silencer Co. Omega 300. And when it came time for my third suppressor, I couldn't decide what. I looked at several different things, and I talked to the guys at Capital Armory again and a bunch of other buddies, and I was like, I really like the size, the weight, the shortness of this Omega, but, I want to get something different. It's like I've got vanilla and chocolate. These are two of the most popular, long-lasting cans on the market. Why not get strawberry? And everybody's like, fine, get strawberry. But there's nothing wrong with chocolate if you like chocolate. So I ended up, my third can, very boring, but I bought another Omega 300, and I really like it. And so with that said, the direct thread hasn't been an issue for me. I've gone, back and forth, and it's not a big deal. But I think that's to each their own. I just would be, like Han said, I would be, conscious of the fact that you are going to need to buy those, QD mounts for the different rifles that you're going to put it on. And there's a lot of options now on this QD stuff, and so you need to do your own research on all that.
I do like the idea of the QD because I'm always taking off those flash hiders, suppressors off the end, and taking them on and off, and having them taken off a rifle when I switch it. It would be nice though to have one, for it to fit on each one of my rifles without having to take the flash suppressor off. And
that's right.
So I do think that's so. That I'm saying all that to say this: either one of them work great. Either one of them are a very good decision. Just depends on what you want to go with and make it work out for you.
I want to talk about one last thing here on what to buy. You mentioned it, and you basically already said it, but I want to reiterate this because this is something that I know I was confused on before I got into suppressors, and a lot of people ask me this question, and it is about the calibers. And I'm going to say this, and I'm sure somebody's going to write in and tell us we're morons here, but listen, get a 30 caliber can. And the reason for that is that you can put the thread adapter and go down to something in the 22 caliber, meaning 223, 270, 243, any of these 22 type calibers, it's a thread adapter is all you got to do. Plus you're good for all the 300 calibers. It makes the most sense. If you buy a 5.56 can or a 22 caliber, and I say 22 caliber, I'm not talking about long rifle, 22 caliber, large center fire rifle caliber, you're stuck with that. You can't put that on a 30 caliber. Makes no sense. The cans we're talking about that we've bought and that most people end up buying, you can run on any of those calibers. Now, I'm going to last caveat on this. It is generally not advised, and sometimes it's just flat out not advised to run these on rim fires. Don't run them on 22s. It's very dirty. You don't want to screw this onto a 22 and fill your can up with all the crud that comes out of a 22. However, I was told by both Silencer Co. and Dead Air on my two particular cans that they saw no reason at all that I couldn't run them on my 17 HMR, which made me super happy. I was not expecting to be able to do that, so you can do that. Talk to the manufacturer first.
Yeah, something about the the rimfire 22 LRs and stuff that the bullets come out and they tumble, and it causes a lot of baffle strikes at times. So definitely don't shoot any 22s out of that. So now the big question is, does using a suppressor give you an advantage when you hog and coyote hunt? And this is where there's a lot of debate, and we don't have a ton of time to get dive deep into it. But I, from somebody of experience of hunting a lot without a suppressor and now only hunting with a suppressor, when you shoot, the hogs are still going to run. The coyotes are still going to run. There's unless you're shooting 400 yards away and they feel comfortable where they're at, they're still going to run. So that there's that misperception of you're basically quiet and you can sit there and shoot as many shots as you need and not have to worry about making any running shots. Jason has a super secret shooting technique with the suppressor. I know he's going to share with us that he has developed from his time hunting with a suppressor. And I'm being very, very protective. Yes,
he's very ugly about this. I can tell. Well, Hans, the reason he's this way is because he can't do it.
Yeah. So
it's not in his blood. So
no, if I have no patience, when I shoot that first shot and they start to run, it is just mag dump, basically, is what it comes down to.
It is.
But Jason has perfected the shoot and pause for a few seconds. And I'll tell you, when you get up on it, and I've tried it, and it does work, when you get up on a group of hogs, the tendency is to take that first shot and just lay it to them. Continue shot, right after one after the other. But with a suppressor, I don't know if it's because it's not as loud, if they can't tell exactly what direction, if it's throwing a different sound at them that they can't tell where it's coming from. But with a suppressor, if you will shoot and just pause for a few seconds, those hogs will jump and they'll run a little bit, but they'll stop usually. They'll stop not that far.
Usually is the key word.
Usually, and it's true. Majority of the time, they'll jump, they'll run, and then they'll stop and they'll start looking around, smelling, trying to figure out where it's coming from, and it will give you the advantage and the opportunity to take very good, precise shots on a hog or coyote that is standing still. Now it works better on hogs.
Yeah,
coyotes are going to
normally run
to the nearest tree. But yeah.
Folks, this works, and this is 60% of the time it works 100% of the time. And so here, this is what I tell everybody, and I know we are just about out of time for the show, but I want to say this. Hans described it perfectly. Make the very first shot count. You shoot that thing in the head and you want him to drop. If you've got to follow up shot the first one, forget it. This technique's probably not going to work. But the key is to drop the first hog. So you want to get as close as you can to them. Make the first one count. And then you have got to resist every urge in your body as they're running away. And Hans cannot do this. I've hunted with him. He can't do it. And you've got to just trigger control and you wait. And you wait, and they're going to run out there. And 60% of the time, actually, truthfully, I think it's about, honestly, 70 to 80% of the time.
If they're out in the middle of an open field, it works a lot better. If they're anywhere near a tree line, they're going right for the tree line. No,
100% agree. I'm making this assumption you're in an open field. I mean, you can be within 50 to 80 yards of the trees, but if you're right up against the woods, forget it. Yeah. But you wait. They're going to run, and usually 70, 80% of the time, they're going to stop, and they're going to turn around. And when they do, you're ready. You can't be sitting there, picking daisies. You got to be ready, and you now, boom, get on it and take that shot. Even in that quick 1 second, you can acquire that target and make a much better shot than you ever will on a running hog. And then you just shoot and do it again. And I mean, I have got out there where it's like a shooting gallery. If you get young hogs and like you kill the old one, drop the sow. I
was just about to say the same thing. And this goes deep into hog hunting strategies, but if you are watching a group of hogs, there's usually one pig, could be a boar, could be a sow, but there's one pig that's the
dominant.
alpha.
Yeah.
and they will follow that pig everywhere. And I mean, if you can find out which one in the group that is, and if you can shoot that one first, they don't know where to go. I mean,
Don't.
they are running around in circles. But if you don't shoot that alpha, that alpha gets away. They're going to follow that thing right to the woods. And that's the smartest one. That's usually the biggest one. They've lived the longest because they know how not to get shot.
It is. I have a whole story about this, and I don't have time to tell it tonight, but I have a story of something funny that happened in this exact scenario. I'll tell it another night. We can talk about this another time, but I did want to bring that up. There are real benefits to it. And the last thing I want to say about suppressors in general and whatever, I want to say there's two things. One, you need to understand, and I know that everybody knows it's not like James Bond and the Hollywood movies, okay? But it's still loud. All right. So I've seen a lot of people been very surprised. They got their suppressor and they walk out there and they go shoot and they go, "Dad gum." Well, yeah, it's still loud. It's a lot quieter, but it's still loud. And if you're shooting within 40 yards of a building, a barn, underneath, like, at a shooting range or an overhang at a barn, it's going to be loud. And you need to wear hearing protection. I still wear hearing protection on the bench every single time with a suppressor. In the field, I do not. If you walk out there in the middle of a field and you shoot, it is absolutely bearable. In my opinion, it's hearing safe. For hunting. I mean, maybe if I was going to do it all day long, no, but you've got to understand it's still loud. And
I agree 100%. And at my house where I have a bunch of hogs that come in and I shoot hogs quite often, it's probably 90 yards from the spot that I shoot to my wife's bed, she's in at night shooting shows. Before I would shoot, suppressed if I was just going out there without a suppressor and shoot. I'd come in and she'd be like, "Gosh, dang, how many times are you going to shoot that hog?"
Yeah.
And now I'll shoot and I'm like, "Hey, did you hear me?" She's like, "No, I didn't hear you at all." So, I mean, it does make a difference, especially what's great about it if you hunt with properties that have houses nearby, if you're shooting at your own house. Yeah. I mean, it is great.
I think we need follow-up topic on this because I've got several of things talking about that. I mean, I really do think there's more to say. There's more to talk about.
We will not wait almost 100 episodes before we talk about suppressors again.
Yeah, we'll talk about it again. So, and the last thing I just want to say this too, and again, this could go into a whole nother episode, but I can say this from experience. And again, please don't send the hate mail. I know there's an exception to every rule. Generally speaking, if you're buying a suppressor and you're going to hunt hogs with it or coyotes, you're going to shoot supersonics. I know everybody wants to buy subsonics, and they are fun because they are really quiet. And if you're shooting on an AR, you can hear that spring come by in your ear, and it is really oddly quiet. I mean, it can be 22 quiet, but it's normally not great hunting rounds. It's not what you want. If you're shooting coons, you're shooting possums, you're shooting something like that, okay. But most guys that are going to be serious hog hunters, I don't know anybody that's killing a lot of hogs that regularly hunts that's using subsonic. Everybody's using super. So anyway, don't shoot me if you do. But
he's acting like he's talking to everybody out there in radio land, but he's actually talking to me because he knows that I just bought a 10-inch 300 blackout. That I'm going to be shooting, and he's speaking directly to me. So
this is not true. He said he wanted subsonics. He's going to use it for personal defense, and I said that's fine, but don't go shooting hogs with it because I've got some stories.
You're exactly right. So, well, I appreciate y'all joining us, Jason. I know he appreciates y'all too. Thank you. If you have any topics related to suppressor talk, any subcategories or anything, please comment to the YouTube video, or you can always reach us or find us at the Late Night Vision Show at gmail.com. If you're interested in a night vision or thermal optic, please contact Jason with Outdoor Legacy. His phone number is 877-350-1818. We talked about the XQ38s, which we are slowly we see some light at the end of the tunnel, but we will be doing the review on that next week. So that's next Thursday episode 113. You can find all of the night vision and thermal optics that we talk about on the show at outdoorlegacygear.com. You can find Jason on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You can also find me on YouTube at Hans ETX. That's HANS ETX. And you can also find me hanging out on Instagram when I post almost every day, maybe too much. But I do share a lot of hunting videos on there as well as pictures from out in the field. I don't think, did I miss anything? I feel like I missed something, but
I think that was it. So,
okay.
Folks, we appreciate you coming back. Appreciate you listening. I know a lot of y'all been around for 112 episodes. We've had some guys that have, many guys that have told me, hey, I just found you, and I'm listening to every episode, and I'm like, you better check yourself into the crazy house then, because that sounds like some form of torture. But anyway, we appreciate all y'all who listen, whether you're new listeners, whether you're old listeners. We appreciate you supporting us at Outdoor Legacy and choosing us to buy your thermal and night vision optics. By doing that, you're supporting this show. Without Outdoor Legacy, there is no late night vision show. And so Hans and I both greatly appreciate that. Thanks for coming back. We will be here hopefully again next week. And you can find us for episode 113, where we're doing the Thermion XQ38 review, good Lord willing. And between now and then, stay safe in the fields and keep making those bacon pancakes.